Here's some examples of what you'll see in the back of computer systems, both legacy and modern computer systems, as far as ports go. You notice you'll have things like a PS2 port or a mouse port. You usually tell the difference between a keyboard port and a mouse port, although they looked identical. The keyboard port will always be purple and the mouse port would always be green. In fact, there are some standard color combinations, such as the printer port for a parallel printer would always be red. A game port, which uses a game stick, would always be yellow. The VGA port, absolutely every time would be blue, unless it was a DVI port, digital port, and it would always be white. As far as the audio output, you would always see a microphone would be yellow, a line in would be blue, and speakers would normally be green or white. You also have ports such as FireWire, which is a rounded off port and extremely fast, and mainly seen in the Apple line of computers, but it did make its way over the PCs. USB ports look like a square, and you'll have multiple types of USB ports, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Then once again, the standard in the industry, the line in blue, the line out green, and a microphone jack red or yellow. Here's a large listing of all the different types of ports that you can run across and what they look like from the back side. Here are some examples of printer ports. You can tell that sometimes the older printer ports, ones that were pre-1995, would be blue or black in color, not the accepted red color on the back of the PC itself. There are 25 lines, and you still see these printers today. They're mainly used in dot matrix printers that are impact printer that you need to use when you're using carbon paper for sales receipts or items like that. USB, Universal Serial Port. The most common port that is used today in most all peripherals. Everything from phones to printers to cameras. You have a Type A, which is a flat square connector. That is the most popular one you'll see, and it'll come in versions USB 1 all the way through USB 4. A Type B was mainly used at a peripheral device, such as the printer. The Mini A and the Mini B were used extensively on laptops and small devices such as cameras or cell phones. Type C is rather new when it comes to USB, and that's a new high-speed USB type connection. You'll notice also that on USB, when you have a USB 1 or 2, it will always be a black connector. But if something has a blue connector with inside, that's almost always USB 3 or 4. Plus it'll have an SS in front of the USB designation to stand for super speed. The speeds of the USB serial, the Universal Serial Bus, well, the USB 1 was pretty slow at 12 megabits, but USB 2 was 480 megabits, and definitely USB 3 was at 5 gigabits. The 4s came out at 10 gigabits, but we will not see very many of the 4s, mainly because they came out with the Type C USB serial bus, which is a 100 gigabit transfer rate, approximately 20 times faster than a USB 3. When you're talking about monitor connectors on your PC, server, tablet, you'll be looking at either VGA, digital, or an HDMI video. On rare occasions, you'll even see S-video or composite. What you have here is a representation of the different connectors and what they're used for. Composite, you would always have green, blue, and red as separate video, or they could have it combined into a single yellow connector, which would compose of the green, blue, and red. S-video always looks like a small DIN plug, except it only has 4 connectors inside. To this day, we still have Ethernet and modem ports on laptops. And then on PCs and servers, you don't see the modem ports anymore, but you do see the Ethernet jack, and you might see a fiber port. That'll mainly be used on servers. When it comes to expansion slots on a motherboard, you can tell by the age of the motherboard by the colors they have for the different connectors. ISA slots will always be black, and they were an 8 to 16-bit slot, usually in the older legacy type systems. PCI and PCI Enhanced are the two most common ones you see, and they'll always be either white or blue in color. When it comes to video, you would always have video cards either in a PCI slot or the faster AGP slot, which is always brown in color. When it comes to power supply, it's the most crucial component within a PC or server. You'll see here the three different types that we know about today. The AT power supply, which is for legacy systems, which have its black Molex connector that flips onto the motherboard, and then these white Molex connectors for hard drives. And then you have the ATX power supply, which has the same Molex connectors for disk drives and peripherals, but the ATX main component for the motherboard is normally white in color, and there's two different connectors you must plug in. One is a 4-pin and the other one is a long 12-pin. Then we have a PS2, which is nothing more than a power supply with different cable ends for things like laptops and peripherals. And normally these can run anywhere from a 12-volt power supply up to a 19-volt power supply. And of course, you have to be able to see something on a computer system, so you're looking at a monitor. Your older VGA monitors, pictured here on the right-hand side, used a tube and was very large and heavy. They have been mainly replaced with LCD or plasma screens, as you see on the left. They're very inexpensive. In fact, today you can buy a 27-inch to a 37-inch LCD monitor for under $600. 24s and 27s go normally for $200. The resolution is extremely fine, and they're safe for the environment, whereas the old VGA monitors had a lot of poisonous chemicals contained within the tubes. Keyboards haven't changed much over time. You have the original XT keyboard, which was basically just a big, large connector, DIN connector that plugged into the computer. And that was soon updated by the AT DIN and the AT PS2 connectors, which were very small and you plugged into the back of the computer system. The most modern ones today are either a USB connector to a keyboard or a Bluetooth, which is wireless. Pointing devices such as the mouse has been around since the very beginning of the computer systems, but now they can come as a USB connected mouse or a wireless mouse using either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. We also have a trackball, as you see in the center of this photograph. Very popular with people, as just rolling the ball is the same as rolling the mouse on a table. And you have a glide pad in which you can use your finger to move the mouse around. And something that's becoming most popular, mainly because of cell phones and tablets, is the touchscreen. Soon we'll have total voice recognition, and we won't even have to touch something to move a mouse around or to go from one pane to another pane in an application. The CD-ROM was the first storage device that came out for early PCs and is still extremely popular to this day. They come out with CD-ROMs that are read-only and ones that are read-writable. The same thing is for DVD. There's DVDs that are readable only and read-writable. The difference between a DVD and a CD-ROM is the maximum size of a CD-ROM is about 680 megabytes, whereas a DVD can be up to 8 gigabytes if you're burning on both sides of the DVD disc. The newest thing that has hit the market is the Blu-ray, which has a huge 28 gigabyte limit for storage. It is extremely fast. In fact, most of your high definition movies that come out today for sale are on Blu-ray. Then we have all the add-on peripherals, cameras, printers. Printers could be laser, dot matrix, or inkjets, and also scanners such as the flatbed or the Snappy that captures stuff through a camera. The second half of this course will discuss printers and cell phones. You now have a pretty good general working knowledge of PCs and servers and the hardware associated with them. Now let's take the course on cell phones and printers.